that. So apologies for anybody who has poor video quality. We're going to obviously we're going to put that on our YouTube channel or somewhere where it's not going to bounce about, and send you a link to it moving forward. But I think that was brilliant, Kieran. It's so much information in such a short space of time. So have we, there's another question there, which Chris might be a good one from you, about somebody had said their apple tree that they thought, you know, they planted in a good hole with lots of bone meal in the bottom of it, but all the leaves have fallen off, and is that because of too much rain?
I wouldn't think it would be too much rain. Apple trees have developed over the millennium to cope with the rain over in Ireland, I suppose. Did the leaves, I mean, unless I know the exact time the leaves fell off, was it close to after planting? Because sometimes bone meal can burn the roots, and if it's lost a lot of its roots, it would compensate by dropping leaves and maybe dying back from the top of the tree. But again, unless I can see pictures or see the tree, it's hard to give a diagnosis. Sometimes trees, if they get a lot of pests, can drop them. Could be any reason, really. Could be many, but a different reason. But like I say, it's hard to make a judgment or a diagnosis.
Sure, Chris. It could. I mean, it's also very possible that just the shock of being moved and going to a new place.
It's possible. Sometimes, if the tree is planted too deep as well, it might not happen immediately, but after about a year, the bark that is now below the soil might rot. That could cause the tree to drop its leaves and die back. So, like I say, it's unless I got more information, I really couldn't say one way or another.
It could just be that the root ball dried out a little and it needed rehydrating. So if you do give it plenty of water, maybe a good half a bucket a day, and just to see. But this time of year, it's very autumnal anyway, so it might just be that it's time to drop the leaves. Exactly.
I mean, South Belfast is different to, say, West Belfast, which is higher up. They have an earlier autumn than us. So it's your local climate really as well. It could be things like that.
Just don't give up on it.
No. Trees are very resilient. If they die back and you lose a few branches, it'll just send new ones out next year if there's life in the root ball. So it certainly might come back. It should.
Kieran and Chris and Gilly, there's a question here. It says, what can you make a garden composter out of, and do you need a roof on it?
Well, like Chris said earlier, he uses pallets, any old wood or even cardboard. The only time I would put a roof on is, to stop the seeds getting in. But I like, an old builder sack or something just over the top, just to suppress the weeds really and keep the moisture in there. And it also deters some of the vermin that might come in there, some mice or rats. But you don't necessarily need to have a roof on. But I like to keep mine covered over, just to keep the weeds. You'll probably find a lot of nettles will come and grow on it, but that's not a bad thing, because you can use your nettles then to make some nice fertilizer, nice liquid fertilizer for your plants. I don't know if Gilly or Chris wants to add to that, but
No, that sounds good. I have in the past put some old black polythene, the type that the farmers would use on a big scale, put that over the top. If it's quite a small pile, what it does, it keeps a bit more heat in, so it makes the compost activate quicker. But anything would do, like a Hessian sack, or if it's a big enough pile, you don't have to cover it. It keeps its own heat in then. So.
There's another question that says, how do I take a cutting from a thyme plant, and how do I dry sage? And Aisling says that her sage has flourished already.
Oh, great. We want pictures.
Yeah.
We need pictures. Please send in your pictures and feedback on the plants that you're growing. Do you know, like I did with the pineapple there, placing it in water, and you'll get some roots coming from then. That's a good tip. But yeah, you can take cuttings.
To dry things out, sometimes you could use it in the oven on a low heat, but just generally in the windowsill. If it's a big spray of it, like a big sprig, hang it upside down somewhere nice and dry, and it will dry out itself eventually. So it should be fine there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Kieran, as you were talking about the pineapple, Rory has a question. Can avocados and pineapples be grown outside in Northern Ireland? I
wouldn't like to say yes. I've got mine both indoors, so I'd like to think so. Another thing that I'm really proud of is we took some passion fruit, some of the passiflora fruit cuttings there a few months ago, and I put them indoors, and they've actually fruited as well, which I hadn't seen before. So you could keep them in your house, your pineapple, and put them in your windowsill, and then you're going to enjoy them there, you know. But I wouldn't really want to put them outside, especially with the harsh winters that we get.
Yeah. Any suggestion of a room, or like what type of lighting you would need to keep it in?
I'd say a lot of light. You know, that's why I'm a big advocate for windowsills. I like to dress my windowsills with plants, and you know, I like to bring the garden inside, so all my windowsills are covered in plants. But that'd be the best place. A well-lit room, you know, even if it's in a corner of a well-lit room, it doesn't matter. It'll thrive. Try lemons as well. They're great indoors.
If I can just put in, I can see another question there about how to make the nettle fertilizer. Basically, get yourself a bucket with a lid on. You could use an old, like a fat ball that you get with 50 fat balls in from, say, the supermarket or a garden centre. Put the nettles in there with some water and just steep it for maybe 6 weeks. Keep stirring it occasionally, and what it does, it leaches all the nutrients out. Nettles are actually full of potassium, nitrates, and phosphates, I think. So it's got the essential NKP, is that right? Yeah. They're the three main constituents that plants like. Just keep stirring it. It will smell a bit. It'll smell like sewage, but I mean, you get used to it. And then when it's ready, water it down in your watering can to about 10%. So if it's a 10 litre water can, put a litre in, fill it with water, and that should do you. So it's free. I mean, nettles are so abundant. You can even eat some of the nettles as well. So so there you go.
That's a good answer. Yeah.
Kieran, you talked a bit there about trying to find planting seeds in well-lit places. Are there any seeds that would be good to grow in like shady places?
Yes, chives, pak choy, mint, thyme. Most of your herbs, you know, you can grow them in a shady place. They'll flourish just as well. Like we said earlier on, beetroot, you know, your root, your brassicas, they'll all grow in dim light, really. But it's just that they thrive better in the sunlight. You know, they get that extra boost from the sunlight. But they will all grow, all your herbs. Put them in your windowsill. If you haven't got a windowsill, top of your stairs, bathrooms are a great place because of the humidity in them. But yeah, most of all the seeds that Helen and Jilly sent out to people were all picked especially for shade and, you know, for sowing now, really. So they'll all grow what you were sent out.
There's actually things like your salad leaves, they might even grow better in the shade. If it's too hot for them, they can cook, with them being mainly water. So they'll probably wilt in really hot heat. So they might be one for the shade, really. Definitely partial shade anyway. But they probably do well in full shade.
Brilliant, nice guys. There's a question here from Michael. He had planted his little apple tree, and but covered the top of it with bark mulch. And he's saying, was that a bad idea?
No, no, that's
really,
a
no.
good idea. Yeah, because it'll suppress the weeds. It'll keep the weeds down because they need the sunlight, and it'll also keep that moisture in because the sun and the wind is not evaporating. The tree will lose its moisture by transpiration through the leaves. So you want to keep it into the roots as much as possible. So we would advise, I mean, a lot of people, when they came to pick the trees up, we did advise them to put some mulch around the tops, just to, like I say, to suppress the weeds or to keep the moisture in. Chris mentioned there earlier about straw. That's another great idea.
Yeah. If I can clarify my point where I said if you bury an apple tree too deep, soil is different to bark chippings. Bark chippings are still nice and loose and airy, so they will just let the moisture go straight through. But if it was the soil would stick around the bark of the tree at the bottom, and then it would eventually rot and probably kill the tree in the end. So, but bark chippings is fine, or something else like straw that Kieran mentioned.
Michael's actually sent over a picture of his little apple tree before and what it looks like now. So I think it might be through to Jilly. So perhaps maybe afterwards we could maybe reply directly to Michael.
Yeah, that's great. That's what we want. We want more pictures. The more pictures and feedback, the better.
Kieran, you had mentioned about in that video you'd used cling film in the plastic bags and stuff, and you'd mentioned there in a chat about use them again and maybe looking at other alternatives. Do you have any suggestions of other things that you could use?
Yeah, I don't have them to hand. I mean, if you go to the Chinese takeaways or Indian takeaways, they sometimes give you those pots that you don't want. You can't get rid of them. So, you know, cover your plant pots with those. You get supermarkets cakes, or like I said in the thing, a pack of tomatoes or peppers and stuff. You know, they're all ideal. Anything that's translucent that you can see through and the sunlight can come through, they're ideal. But just keep using them on and on again. You know, wash them out so there's no cross-contamination. You know, this is what we want to get away from, the single-use plastic. So use them over and over again. They're not single-use then. And you're saving the environment and you're saving yourself money. And that's the main thing. So yeah, look around there. You'll find lots of things, even, you know, jam jars, anything.
Do you think maybe they're too heavy, but with the beeswax, like cloth beeswax wraps, would they be too heavy to cover seeds with?
No, they wouldn't be too heavy. It's just you want as much sunlight as you can. You know, you want something that's clear, you know, clear plastic of some sort like that. But you know, like we said earlier, some seeds they don't need to be in direct sunlight. So anything would do. It's just to keep the heat in and the moisture in, and it's better if they're transparent, really.
It would certainly help with germination if they did have a little cover. It's just, if you imagine a little tiny mini greenhouse, that's exactly what some material is, like some, maybe not cling film, but a reused bag like a tomato packet. Little tiny mini cloches or greenhouses. So.
Brilliant. One last question, which I struggle with myself, is should you water your seeds every day, and how much is too much, or how little is too little is probably more accurate.
Yeah, you shouldn't water them every day. You know, just give it a little pat and you'll feel it if the soil is moist. You want it. More people kill seedlings and seeds by over watering them than anything else. A lot of gardeners would know by the weight, but just test your soil and you'll feel it. And if it's damp, don't water it. If it's really dry, then, you know, water it. But it's better, like I said on the video, to try and get the roots to go down and suck the moisture up. You're getting better root systems that way if you're forcing them to go down to suck the moisture out. So water from the bottom is always better. If you got one of them spray bottles, you could use one of those. But always better to water from the bottom. But test it first. I definitely, if it's in a well-lit windowsill, they could dry out every day. but you have to check it first. If it's dry, give it a water, but from the bottom, please.
And would they do all the seed containers? Do they need drainage holes for that, or?
Yes, you will always want drainage holes. The soil, if the water's gathering in the bottom of the pot, it can smell and it's not very nice. Plus the roots can rot off. They need oxygen. I mentioned about getting rid of the larger air pockets, but you still need the air pockets in there, the oxygen in there. You'll see football pitches, the groundsman aerating the ground. A lot of places will get rid of the worms and then they have to aerate, because the worms do all the aeration for us. But that's why if you've got too much stagnant water laying in the bottom, it's not good for the seedlings or the seeds. So you always need the air holes, or the water holes, really, the drainage holes. So yeah, I'd say every pot should have drainage holes in.
Brilliant. Folks, if you've any more questions or anything, we don't see any there in the chat or the Q&A, but if you do have any, just raise your hand. Sure, we'll open the floor.
I think that's been a really, really good session with and lots of questions answered by Chris and Kieran as well. So thanks a million for that, guys.
Thank you for inviting us. I've been thoroughly enjoyed it, I tell you.
Not at all. And for next time, we will definitely have the whole video situation sorted out a bit better. So apologies for that, but we'll send you a link to that, because actually, if you can watch it properly and it's not jumping about, it's really, really good. So thanks very much. I think maybe if there are no more questions, we could maybe wrap it up for this evening then.
If anybody does want anything answered, just contact us online. You can find TCV website. Myself and Kieran's email addresses are on there, or Gilly's, and just fire your question at us and we'll answer it for you as best we can.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. So, okay, well, thank you very much, and learned a few things tonight, and again, apologies for that it didn't go as smoothly as we wanted, but guys in the TCV, you were great, and girls in the office, you were great as well. And we'll see you for the next webinar then.
Great, thank you.
Just put my email up on the webinar chat, so if people wanted to get a quick copy of it, if it's a question directed at Kieran or Gilly, I can pass it on to them, or bounce their emails back to you. So
okay, I think you all have mine anyway, so yeah, really happy. The more questions the better, and thanks a million. So we'll let you go now and get your tea.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.